Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive, kind of hidden challenge behind the whole electric vehicle boom, and more importantly, the incredibly clever tech that's stepping up to solve it. I mean, we all see the EVs out on the road, right? But behind the scenes, there's this frantic infrastructure race going on. So today, we're diving into the data, the software, and the physical hardware breakthroughs that are literally keeping our electrical grid from reaching its breaking point.
Let's just jump right in and look at the sheer scale of this. Think about California for a second. By 2030, California alone is going to need an absolutely staggering 109,000 depot chargers and 5,500 en route chargers just to support the anticipated flood of zero emission medium and heavy duty vehicles. To put that into perspective, that means an average of 440 chargers need to be deployed every single week from 2025 through 2030. That is an absolute mountain of infrastructure. And to understand why that number is so huge and why we need it so fast, we kind of have to step back and look at how rapidly EVs have just conquered the market.
Section 1. The EV Takeover, a massive market shift.
To get a feel for this, just look at the 2026 AAA Car Guide winners. Electric and hybrid vehicles completely swept the market, literally winning every single category. You've got the Lucid Gravity Touring taking the overall top spot. But this shift is happening across the board, not just with fancy luxury sedans. The VW ID Buzz Pro S Plus took the minivan category, the Chevy Silverado EV completely dominated pickups, and the Honda Civic Hybrid took the win for small cars. This shift is undeniable. Consumers are making the switch, and they're doing it across every type of vehicle. And get this, by late 2025, the annual cost to own and operate a new vehicle dropped to roughly $11,500. That is a massive drop from the previous year. So the economics are actually making sense for everyday drivers now, meaning that tsunami of EVs hitting the roads is only going to grow. But that brings up a really big problem. What happens when millions of these new EVs pull up and need a massive surge of power for a fast charge, all at the exact same time?
Section 2. The Grid Bottleneck, charging under pressure.
Which brings us to a pretty sobering reality and a massive infrastructure bottleneck. The big question we really have to ask ourselves is our grid actually ready to deliver enough power to all these charging stations without completely melting down? Well, to be totally honest with you right now, it's a huge challenge.
The truth is, if you try to rely entirely on grid-supplied power, you're basically signing up to wait months, sometimes even years, for wildly expensive traditional upgrades. You can't just plug a direct current fast charger, a DC-FC, into a standard wall outlet. You need serious utility-scale power. It's kind of like everyone in the city turning on their air conditioning at the exact same second. DC fast charging creates these short, intense spikes in power demand. This forces utilities into these crazy complex balancing acts and really costly upgrades. And the ripple effects are severe. We're talking a higher risk of blackouts and brownouts on an aging grid, excruciatingly slow timelines to actually get power turned on, even with new rules like 29 and 45 trying to speed things up, and ultimately, massive infrastructure costs that just get passed right down to everyday ratepayers. So how do we solve this charging bottleneck without ripping up every street in the city to lay thicker cables? Section 3. Energy Management, Optimizing the Grid. Well, before we even talk about new hardware, we have to look at software. Companies like Blink Charging are rolling out software solutions, like their new AI-driven Energy Connect, to intelligently manage the power capacity we already have. Instead of just pulling maximum power blindly from the grid, the software uses AI to optimize the energy flow, which significantly cuts operating costs for the people hosting the chargers. This introduces a really vital concept called demand charge management, or DCM. Basically, utilities slop commercial sites with massive fees for hitting peak power usage. What DCM does is step in and limit the site's grid draw during those super expensive peak hours, and crucially, it shifts the actual battery charging to off-peak hours. It's a simple shift, but it saves business owners an absolute fortune and takes a ton of stress off the grid when everyone else is trying to use it. Section 4. Battery chargers, a hardware revolution. But here's the thing, software alone can't fix a physical power shortage. For that, we need a true hardware revolution. The contrast between the old way and the new way is night and day. Traditional fast chargers just yank massive peak power straight from the grid, demanding expensive upgrades. But battery-integrated chargers, they act like a giant sponge. They slowly absorb off-peak power using the existing grid, store it all up, and then deliver a massive rush of energy exactly when a vehicle needs it. No massive grid upgrades, no ripped-up streets, just smart, fast deployment. And we are actually watching this technology hit the market right now. For example, OptiGrid LLC recently acquired FreeWire's intellectual property through a California Energy Commission grant, and they are bringing exactly this solution to market with their Gen 1 battery integrated charger. It's a massive, tangible step for commercializing this vital tech.
So, how does it actually work? It's a pretty elegant three-step dance. Step 1. The system slowly trickles in power during the night or whenever demand is low. Step 2. It stashes that energy in a massive, integrated 160 kilowatt-hour battery. Step 3. When a car or truck pulls up, it can instantly blast up to 500 kilowatts of fast power right to the EV. And the best part? It does all of this without stressing the existing utility grid even a little bit.
And they aren't just testing this out on standard commuter cars either. To prove this holds up under immense utility-scale demand, OptiGrid is actually pivoting to pilot this battery farm tech at a warehouse. They're partnering with Orange EV to charge a fleet of heavy-duty Class 8 electric terminal tractors. Honestly, if a battery-integrated charger can reliably keep a fleet of massive commercial trucks running on super-tight warehouse margins, it can pretty much work anywhere.
Section 5. The Resilient Road Ahead. Resilient Energy Hubs.
Here's where it gets really cool. The benefits of these battery-integrated systems go way beyond just juicing up cars. They literally transform a standard parking lot into a resilient energy hub. A crucial point here is site backup power, or SBP. Because these chargers have massive batteries built right into them, they can moonlight as generators when the grid goes down. They can keep a business's critical operations running for up to 2 hours during a total blackout, handling 40 to 50 kilowatts of load. That kind of resiliency is an absolute game changer for businesses worried about extreme weather or a flaky grid.
And it scales up, too. When you connect a bunch of these units together, they form a virtual power plant, a VPP. They can directly integrate with on-site solar panels to boost efficiency. With bidirectional charging, they can even send power back onto the grid during peak times to help utilities manage the dreaded duck curve. You know, that huge spike in evening energy demand? So they aren't just passively taking power, they're actively managing and supplying it.
The overall resiliency benefits are just off the charts. Think about this. During a complete blackout, the system's internal battery is big enough to charge up to 5 average EVs without any grid connection whatsoever. Plus, the people hosting the sites faced 0 delays waiting for distribution grid upgrades. Direct DC integration with solar gives a greater than 3% efficiency bump over standard AC setups. And by smoothing out all that peak demand, we lower the infrastructure costs, which ultimately means lower utility bills for everyday ratepayers. Everybody wins.
So whether it's dodging a crazy infrastructure bill, squeezing every drop out of solar energy, or keeping a heavy-duty fleet moving when the grid totally fails, this technology is what makes the massive EV transition actually viable. Which leaves us with a pretty wild thought to chew on. What if the very vehicles and chargers we were so afraid would break our grid end up being the exact microgrids that save it? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you next time.